Break through the white noise and see the world through a prism of intense color and raw, unfiltered emotion. We show you every shade of the human experience through stunning 3D cinematic visuals. Click subscribe now and start seeing the world in a whole new light.
The candles on table 7 were burning low. I noticed that, before I noticed anything else, before I noticed the door open, before I heard the hostess hesitate at the front, before I felt the shift in the room that only someone who owns a place can feel. When you build something from nothing, you learn to read it the way you read your own body. A draft from the wrong direction. A silence that doesn't belong. I was standing behind the bar, going over the weekend inventory with my floor manager, Dana, when she stopped mid-sentence and looked toward the entrance. "Do you know those people?" she asked. I turned around. My mother was standing in the doorway of my salon and cafe, wearing the same beige coat she'd worn to my grandmother's funeral 6 years ago. My older brother was beside her. And my father was already moving toward me, eyes scanning the room the way he used to scan my report cards, looking for something to correct. I hadn't spoken to any of them in 3 years and 4 months. I know the exact number because the last time we spoke, I had just signed the lease on this building. I called to tell them. My father said I was making a mistake. My mother said nothing. My brother laughed and asked if I needed money, which was his way of reminding me that I didn't have any. I hung up and didn't call back. Neither did they. That was 3 years and 4 months ago. And now they were standing inside Ivory Stem, my salon, my cafe, my name on the door, like they'd simply been away on a long trip and had finally decided to stop by. I set down my clipboard. "I've got this," I said to Dana. "Can you check on the kitchen?" She looked at me for a moment, then nodded and walked away. She knew. Dana has worked with me since the beginning, and she has the particular gift of understanding when to ask questions and when to simply leave the room. I walked toward my family slowly, not because I was afraid, because I had learned over 3 years of building something real, of getting up at 5 in the morning, of doing payroll on Sunday nights, of crying in the parking lot exactly once and never again. I had learned that the most powerful thing I could do in any room was refuse to be rushed. "Hi," I said. I stopped about 6 feet away from them, not close enough to hug. That distance was deliberate. My mother's eyes moved around the space, the pale walls, the dried florals, the marble counter, the small cafe tables near the window where 2 women were splitting a latte and a magazine. I watched her take it in. I watched her process the fact that I had done this. "This is nice," she said, like she was complimenting a stranger's haircut. "Thank you," I said. "We're at capacity tonight. I'm not sure you had a reservation." My father stepped forward. He was holding a manila folder. I recognized the look on his face. I had seen it my entire childhood. It was the look he wore when he had already decided how a conversation was going to go, and he was simply waiting for everyone else to catch up. "We need to talk," he said. "I'm working. This will only take a few minutes." It never only takes a few minutes. I had known that since I was 12 years old, sitting at the kitchen table while he explained in careful and deliberate terms everything I had done wrong. But I stepped aside and gestured toward the small private room near the back, the one I use for consultations, for bridal parties, for the occasional difficult conversation. I had used it for all 3 in the past month alone. I closed the door behind us. My brother sat down immediately the way he always did, like every room was already his. My mother stood near the wall. My father placed the folder on the table between us and looked at me the way he always looked at me when he wanted me to feel small. "Your brother is in trouble," he said. I waited. The business didn't work out. My brother had opened a custom furniture workshop 2 years ago, right around the time I was refinishing my floors and sourcing my equipment and learning, through trial and genuine error, how to run payroll. I had heard about the workshop through my aunt, not from my brother, not from my parents. My aunt, who mentioned it at a cousin's birthday and then immediately changed the subject, which told me everything I needed to know about how it was going. "I'm sorry to hear that," I said. "And I was in the way." "You're sorry when something you expected to happen finally does." "He has investors," my father said. 3 of them. "They're calling in the debt." "How much?" "Combined, around 90,000. I kept my face neutral. I had been trained by years of customer-facing work to keep my face neutral. "That's serious," I said. "He should talk to a bankruptcy attorney. I can give you a referral if—" "We're not here for a referral." My father's voice was the same as it had always been, flat and certain and completely uninterested in the direction the conversation was going unless it was his direction. "We're here because there's a way to resolve this without bankruptcy. without destroying his credit, his record, without the family name being attached to a default. I looked at him. You've built something here, he said. It's obvious you've done well. All we're asking is that you take on a minority partnership, bring your brother in, give him a stake in the business. 15%. Enough that his investors see he has assets, see he has assets, see he has income. It buys him time. I said nothing for a moment. I was counting backward from 10 inside my head, the way my therapist taught me 3 years ago, right around the time I stopped answering my family's calls. You want me to give my brother 15% of my business, I said? To cover a debt he created. To keep this family from falling apart. The family fell apart when you all stopped calling me. No one said anything. My mother looked at the wall. My brother examined his hands. My father straightened. We made mistakes. We understand that. But this is a moment where family comes together, and we're asking you to. What leverage do you have? I asked. He blinked. You didn't come here just to ask, I said. You've never come anywhere just to ask, so I want to know what you think you have. A pause. Then my father opened the folder. Inside was a document, a loan agreement. It had my name on it. I stared at it for a long moment, and something cold moved through my chest because my name was on a loan agreement that I had never seen before and never signed. Your brother listed you as a co-signer on one of the investor loans, my father said, and his voice had dropped just slightly, just enough to signal that he knew what he was saying. 2 years ago, $40,000. I looked at the signature line. Someone had written my name. It was not my handwriting. It was not my signature. But it was my name, and it was notarized. Badly, I would later learn, by a notary who had since lost her license. But in that moment, sitting in my own consultation room, I felt the particular horror of seeing your name attached to something you didn't choose. That's not my signature, I said. The notarization says otherwise. Then the notarization is fraudulent, which means you've just told me that my brother committed identity theft and forgery, and you're using it as leverage against me in my own place of business. I let that sit in the air for a moment. Do you understand what you just did? My father's jaw tightened. I understand that you have something to protect now. This building, this business, your reputation in this neighborhood. The investors could make things complicated. They could contact your landlord, file a civil claim against you. My landlord, I said. Not a question, just repeating the word to be sure I had heard it. These things have a way of affecting a business's standing in the community. I stood up. Give me until the end of service, I said. Come back at 9, I'll have an answer for you. My father looked surprised. He had expected either capitulation or an argument, and I had given him neither. My brother looked up for the first time. My mother finally met my eyes, and in hers I saw something I hadn't expected. Not cruelty, not calculation, but something tired and ashamed, which made me feel nothing in particular, because by then I had already made up my mind. 9 o'clock, my father said. I'll be here, I said, and I opened the door and walked them out through my dining room, past the candles and the dried florals and the customers who had no idea what had just happened. And I said goodnight to them at the door like they were any other guests I was seeing off at the end of an evening. Then I went to the back office and called my attorney. Her name is Claire, and she has been my business attorney since the day I signed my first lease. I found her through a small business association, and I have paid her retainer every single month since then, including the 3 months when I was eating toast for dinner and hoping my card didn't decline at the gas station. I paid it because she told me at our very first meeting, the months you most want to cancel this are the months you'll need me most. She was right. She is usually right. I told her everything. She listened without interrupting, which is one of the things I value most about her. When I finished, she was quiet for a moment. Do you still have your original loan documents from your business financing? She asked. All of them. And you've never co-signed anything for your brother? Not a lease, not a loan, nothing loan? Nothing loan. I need you to photograph that document, every page, and send it to me right now. Don't let it leave the building. Another pause. And I need you to know something before your family comes back tonight. What your father just did, threatening to contact your landlord, threatening your business standing in exchange for a financial stake, that's extortion. That's a felony. You have options here that they don't know you have. I know, I said, but I want to do this a specific way. She listened to what I had in mind. When I finished, she was quiet again, and then she said, "Give me 45 minutes. I said that was fine. Then I smoothed my apron, walked back out onto the floor, and spent the next 2 hours doing my job. I checked on table 4, who had been waiting too long for their food. I approved a last-minute booking for a bridal consultation the following weekend. I made sure the candles on table 7 were replaced. At 8:45, I went to the back office. Claire had sent me 2 documents. I printed them. I put them in a folder, my own folder, plain white, nothing on the cover. At 9 o'clock exactly, my family walked back in. I had asked Dana to clear the consultation room, and I had left a small tray with water glasses on the table, because whatever was about to happen, I was not going to be the person in the room who forgot basic hospitality. That felt important to me. It still does. I let them sit. I sat across from them. "I've thought about your offer," I said. My father nodded, already settling into the posture of someone who believes they've won. "I'm not going to give you 15% of my business," I said. "I'm not going to give you any percent. And I want to explain why in a way that's very clear, so that we don't have to have this conversation again." My father started to speak. "I need you to let me finish," I said. And something in my voice, the same voice that manages a staff of 11, that handles difficult clients, that once calmly asked a vendor to renegotiate a contract he thought was final. That voice worked on my father in a way it never had when I was younger. Because now it belonged to someone he needed something from. He stopped. I opened my folder. "The document you showed me tonight has a fraudulent signature and a notarization from a notary's whose license was revoked 14 months ago. My attorney has already documented this and filed a preliminary record with the relevant authorities. If your brother's investors attempt to enforce that document, they will be doing so using fraudulent evidence, which is a problem for them, not for me." I slid the first page across the table. It was Claire's 1-paragraph summary. Professional, precise, 4 sentences. That's the first thing. I took out the second document. "When I opened this business, I financed part of my equipment through a small business loan. One of my financing contacts, a private lender, also happened to be one of my brother's investors. The same investor, actually, who holds 30,000 of the 90,000 in debt." I watched my brother's face change. "I've been a reliable borrower. Perfect repayment history. 2 years running. So when I called this afternoon and explained the situation, explained that the co-signer document was fraudulent, explained that I had documentation, explained that I was prepared to file a formal complaint and that his name would be attached to it, he was very willing to talk. I set the second page on the table. It was a 1-page agreement, signed that evening, electronic signature, team stamped. He has agreed to release the debt, withdraw from the investor group, and provide a written statement that the loan agreement involving my name was brought to his attention as potentially fraudulent. In exchange, I have agreed to refer 3 of my business contacts to him over the next calendar year. People who actually pay their debts." The room was very quiet. My father looked at the document. He looked at it the way he used to look at things that weren't going the way he planned, not with anger, exactly, but with a kind of recalibrating stillness, like a compass trying to find north in a room full of magnets. "That still leaves 60,000, he said finally. "Yes," I said, "it does. That's your son's problem, and yours if you've co-signed anything, but it is not mine." I closed the folder. "As for the suggestion that you might contact my landlord, I spoke with him this afternoon as well. We have a good relationship. He has my full payment history and a signed letter from me explaining that members of my family might attempt to misrepresent my business standing to him. He thanked me for the heads up. My brother put his face in his hands. My mother was very still. My father looked at me for a long moment, really looked at me, maybe for the first time in years, and I could not read his expression, and I found that I did not need to. "What I needed from you 3 years ago," I said, and I kept my voice even because I had decided before they walked in that I was not going to cry in this room, not tonight, was support. Not money, not a stake in anything. Just someone to say that what I was trying to build was worth trying. You didn't do that, and I built it anyway, and now you're here because you need something from what I built, and you brought a document with my forged signature to make sure I understood that refusing wasn't really an option." I stood up. "It was always an option," I said. "I just needed to be in a position to use it." I picked up my folder. "You're welcome to finish your water. Dana will see you out when you're ready. I hope you find a real solution for the situation. I mean that sincerely. But it won't involve this business or anything with my name on it." I walked to the door of the consultation room, and then I stopped, because there was one more thing, and I had decided I was going to say it. "Mom." I turned back. She was looking at me now. "I don't know why you came tonight, whether it was his idea, or yours, or both. But if there's ever a version of this where you call me just to call me, not because something has gone wrong, not because something has gone wrong, not because someone needs something, I'll pick up." She didn't say anything. but her eyes were wet, and I noted that, and I let it mean what it meant without trying to fix it or hold on to it. I walked out. The dining room was winding down, the late tables finishing their drinks, soft music, the quiet, comfortable hum of a place that has made it through another full night of service. Dana caught my eye from across the room, and I gave her a small nod and she gave me one back. I went to the kitchen, checked in with my closing team, approved the end-of-night numbers, and ate half a bowl of soup standing at the prep counter because I hadn't eaten since noon. My phone buzzed once around 10:15. A text from a number I didn't recognize, which meant my father had switched phones or borrowed my brother's to send one last message. I don't know what it said because I didn't open it. I blocked the number and set my phone face down on the counter. The sous chef asked if I wanted him to pack up the rest of the soup to take home. I said yes. I turned off the lights in the back office, the consultation room, the supply closet. I walked through the dining room one more time, the way I do every night, checking that everything was right, that the space was the way I wanted to leave it for the morning, the dried florals on the counter, the marble clean and cool under the light. My name on the glass door, reversed from the inside. I had chosen that name carefully. It took me 2 weeks to decide. I wanted something that felt like a beginning. I locked up. I stood on the sidewalk for a moment in the night air. Nothing dramatic happened. The street was ordinary. A car passed. A dog barked somewhere a block over. I thought about what my father's face had looked like when he realized the document was worthless. I thought about the tired shame in my mother's eyes, and I tried to decide what to do with that, and I decided I would do nothing with it, at least not tonight, and that was fine. I walked to my car. I had a 7 a.m. opening tomorrow, a new product delivery, and a training session for 2 new hires. I had a business to open and a floor to run and 11 people who showed up every day because they trusted me to run it well. That was enough. That was, honestly, more than enough. It always had been. I just hadn't always known it.